Hello everyone. I'm just going to do a quick trade recap on, it's actually a losing trade recap, which, I try to do more for my own personal education or development as a trader. It just kind of gives me a new fresh look at what I was thinking and why I was thinking that, and it just kind of almost like a third person perspective after the fact, after the emotions or whatever of getting stopped out have kind of settled down. I try not to let it affect me too much. I've been trading for, coming up on a year and a half now, actually, believe it or not, and so I still have those emotions that are involved with loss of your money. They say professional traders don't let their losses affect them, and it doesn't matter if they win 1 pip or 1,000 pips, it's still the same feeling to them, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess that's the ultimate goal to reach, is to just be this steel, no emotion trading robot where you can just enter and exit trades without any emotion. I'm not there yet, obviously. I still get a little emotional when I take a loss, but try and learn from it and not dwell on it. I try and learn. That's one of the reasons why I do some of these losing videos, because it kind of helps me reevaluate the trade and reanalyze my entry and why I entered there and what I should have been potentially waiting for to happen. And a lot of times it's just patience, lack of patience, actually. And this is a clear-cut case of lack of patience. I had on my chart where I should have entered, and had I waited just a few more hours, that would have been a perfect entry opportunity. And I'll get into that and I'll show you where I should have entered. I had the markup on my chart. I just, saw something that looked good, I guess you could say. Which, even if it looks good, doesn't mean it's going to work out, and this is a clear-cut case of that. So anyways, enough rambling. You see my entry, you see my stop where I got stopped out. It was a 30 pip loss. Here's the little ticket thing for it. Right at 30 pips, which is what I generally always do. And kind of this is what I was seeing. We got this yellow line is a daily chart trend line. If we go back out, we can see that we had a nice close below that, and a little bit of selling afterwards, but was quickly rejected off of these lows here, and this 50 EMA on the daily chart. 1 hour chart was my entry chart, which, first things first, if you're trading off of a daily chart, you probably want to be entering on a 4-hour chart, or even the daily chart. When you get down to those lower time frames, a 1 hour chart's not terribly low, but for a daily chart trend line break, you probably want to be waiting for at the minimum a 4-hour chart entry. So that's the first thing. But we'll go through what I saw. My entry was kind of right just above this daily chart. I guess what I was thinking at the time was, it's a daily chart. It was broken. We can be around this trend line, and I guess it could be respected. It's probably not going to be respected to the pip. So I guess I had that thinking in my mind. On a 1 hour chart, we did have this little trend line right here, kind of a tighter, more precise trend line, I guess you could say, that I had drawn on here. And then additionally, I had kind of this little potential channel topper trend line that was kind of intersecting that more precise 1 hour chart trend line, if you want to call it that. And that's kind of in like just around a 10 to 15 pip range from the daily trend line. Fib wise, I had this. I took this fib here, and that was the 61.8 fib retracement right there. It was below this little previous low here, or this high, or lower high. Structure wise, I had some nice little structure levels here that held as resistance here and support here, and failed to really go back above it here, depending on where exactly you draw it. But so you can see I have everything for a valid trade, and if I was like a 10 pip scalper, it would have worked out fine. But some of the things that I should have saw going into the trade was we had pretty strong rejection off of these low points here. If I draw just a little price line here, these were the most recent lows here, and we had a pretty strong rejection coming off those lows. That's a pretty bullish move coming off of the lows. Retested that daily trend line, had a little bounce, which was a higher low, and then a pretty strong move up, closing back above the daily trend line and this retest point. So that should have been an indication that I probably shouldn't be looking to short right around here with this strong bullish movement. So even though I had all this stuff, one other thing I had in my favor was the negative 23.6 profit target was right there, and had I entered, that would have been a even better entry. But it still wouldn't have made much of a difference. And you can see price really didn't go in my favor more than just a few pips before kind of just making its way up and stopping me out. And sometimes I hold the trade for the full loss, and this was one of those times. Sometimes this was kind of, I go to bed right around this time, so that may have been clouding my mind. I was at the end of my day, I was tired, so that could have been an issue with this trade as well. But I did see this strong bullish candle close above my entry point, above these levels here. I could have and should have probably just closed my trade there for, it would have been, let's see, that would have been right around a 13 pip loss. So I could have cut my loss in half essentially, had I closed there. And I even kind of almost got a little retest, but I was asleep by then, and I think I was, by the time I woke up, I was stopped out already. But Now really quick, getting into where I should have entered. We'll just remove all those drawings there. And I had this marked up on my chart. I said that this was a potential move lower from that daily trend line break, which I don't know how valid that is, because it's obviously back above that trend line. If we draw that trend line in here again, this was kind of this was the one I had. We are actually catching support off the top of it now, back inside. But anyways, this would have been my more perfect entry. This trend line forming here had a perfect test off of it. In addition to that, we had the 78.6 fib retracement right there, and we had some beautiful levels right there as well. So that would have been the perfect entry. Stop wise, my stop, I do 30 pips. That could have been right up around there. And that would have been a no drawdown entry, for 50 plus pips, as it stands right now, right around 50 pips. But I didn't take that trade. That's the trade I should have taken, and it would have been a clear winner. I probably would have just taken profit at this trend line and EMA right there. So that would have been right around 55 pips, 50 to 55 pips. So that just goes to show you what patience can do for your trading, and what lack of patience can do for that matter. Lack of patience being a 30 pip loss versus having patience, even if, literally just a few hours later, like 16 hours later, 12 hours later, something like that. This trade would have set up perfectly, and I could have entered it the next morning instead of that night before going to bed, at the end of my long day of taking care of a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old, and trying to get a couple trades in over nap time. I could have waited. I've been fresh the next morning and saw this trade set up perfectly, and it could have been a winner instead of a loser. Overall, last week I closed out with right at about 166 pips overall. It was actually a really crappy week for me, believe it or not. I say that I closed out profitable with 166 pips, but I only had I only won 42% of my trades. I used my FX book, and yeah, 42%. That's kind of low for me. I'm usually kind of up around 60 at least, like usually minimum 60%. And I try and always have like a 2-to-1, right around a 2-to-1 risk to reward. In this case I probably would have taken profit right there, so that would have been just about, almost a 2-to-1, but not quite. Yeah, I don't know, last week kind of sucked. I had a couple of really good trades, and this was actually one of my worst trades, I guess. But we have them every week. I generally have a bad trade, but it's good overall, as long as you can, have the patience and discipline and stay focused on, trading the way that you trade, and just having good patience for those trade setups and waiting for those to materialize. And if they don't come, they don't come. There's a ton of different currency pairs that I follow. Well, mainly the major pairs. I don't get into the super exotic pairs, but if a trade doesn't set up on one, there's usually a trade setting up on another. So it's all about patience, and this was just a losing trade analysis and some of the things I could have done differently. Let me know if you have any questions.